Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So let's just be honest here and call a spade a spade. Modern Christianity is soft. Yeah, it's soft, it's spineless, it's compliant, and most of the people, they aren't warriors for truth. They're just rule followers with a Bible in their hand, just hoping that they'll get a pat on the back from old God for being nice. And that's the problem. They're not standing up. They're bowing down. They bend to the government. They bend to the culture. They bend to public opinion, and half of these people would bend over backwards for whatever social symbol is trending this week if it meant that they get to keep their tax exemption and keep their image all squeaky clean. It's not courage. It reeks of domesticated obedience. And they disguise it as love. Oh, we're trying to be Christ-like. No, you're trying to avoid conflict. You're addicted to comfort. You don't want to offend anyone because deep down, you want approval more than you want truth. They're not truth seekers, they're approval seekers. And here's the irony. They don't even follow the example they claim to believe in. Their own book says that this Jesus fella flipped tables, insulted religious leaders, called out hypocrisy, and resisted power structures. And these weren't mild corrections either. He called the Pharisees whitewashed tombs in Matthew 23:27. Blind guides in verse 16. Fools and blind in verse 17. And serpents, brood of vipers in verse 33. In Luke 11:39 through 44, he publicly rebukes not just Pharisees, but also the lawyers who upheld the religious law. And then again in John 8:44, he flat out tells the Jewish leaders, you are of your father the devil. That's the guy they're saying that they're following. But they can't even stomach a Facebook disagreement. Seriously? But yeah, modern Christians, what do? Dude, they host potlucks and they play their acoustic guitars in their mega church auditoriums with fog machines and LED lights, all while their culture is being hollowed out from the inside. They don't challenge anything. They just absorb it. They adapt to it. And then they pretend it was always part of the belief system. It's not conviction, it's cowardice, man. That's what it is. I mean, you'll see a church marketing campaign like, love everyone always. But then you go inside and you try to have an honest conversation with these people about systemic corruption, censorship, moral boundaries even. And then, dude, just watch how quickly they flinch. Dude, they'll either change the subject or accuse you of being divisive. And they won't do that because you're wrong. They'll do it because you make them uncomfortable. Like I said, they're addicted to comfort and approval. They'll quote Bible verses till they're blue in the face about being bold, being set apart, standing firm. But in practice, when the rubber meets the road, most of the time, they're just trying to blend in. Christianity today, it's more about optics and vibes than substance. It's a spiritual PR campaign. It's not a movement of people who are actually, living by any deep principles. And let me be clear here. I'm not saying this as a believer. I'm not religious. I don't subscribe to this faith. But I've been close enough to it and in it long enough to recognize how fractured and performative it's become. Even the Bible, let's go back to the Bible, whatever that means anymore. Catholics and Protestants, they don't even agree on what books belong in it. Is it the Deuterocanonical, Apocrypha? Dude, that whole split during the Reformation with Martin Luther literally removed entire books. So depending on who you ask, God's word comes with just different tables of content The tables of contents in the Protestant Bible is vastly different than the Catholic one. And yet they all claim certainty. They all claim divine authority, absolute truth. But if the foundation is that unstable, how are you going to build anything on it that isn't warped? And it's not just the evangelicals. I used to be a traditional Latin Mass Catholic, one of them TLM folk, the tradcaths, the kind that always debate Vatican II, always clashing with other Catholics, the more, I guess, progressive ones. I mean, you think Protestants are divided? Shoot. I mean, granted, they have over 40,000 denominations. That's pretty fractured, but dude, try talking to a Catholic. I mean, you've got the Norvis Odo crowd, the SSPX crowd, the TLM crowd, the ones that receive communion while kneeling, the ones that take it in the hand, It's just, and then don't even get me started on the corruption of the Vatican, which is constantly undermining any sense of clarity or consistency. I mean, each group claims to have the correct interpretation while pointing fingers at the other. It's exhausting. It's a religion built on the idea of universal truth that somehow manages to disagree with itself every 5 seconds. I mean, I remember constantly disagreeing with fellow Catholics on top of, already disagreeing with evangelicals. It was tiresome, laborious. I mean, always arguing about liturgy and doctrine and church authority, always bringing up Vatican II. It just got so old. But it's not just the infighting, it's the arrogance. Catholics, especially the traditional ones, Dr. Taylor Marshall, carry this moral and intellectual superiority complex that rubbed off on me. It turns you into an insufferable person who thinks that they're above everyone else, especially other Christians. I mean, dude, the head priest at the parish I used to go to, dude was the poster child for that mindset, just full of himself, pompous, condescending, patronizing. He'd post up on Facebook, usually status garbage that's just tied to mainstream politics. And then when people would, comment and give their 2 cents, maybe some pushback here and there in the comments, dude, he'd get defensive and just start correcting them like they were school children. There was no real openness, no humility, no dialogue, just that aura of I'm right because I wear the collar, He was above reproach and absolutely loved the sound of his own authority. I mean, I guess obnoxious was really putting it lightly. I mean, and then don't even get me started on how every Catholic event seems to involve alcohol. Every single one, man. It's just a part of the culture. Catholic social life is practically built around it. It's built around booze. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, both Protestants and Catholics, for the most part, they just roll over when it comes to the state. Seriously. I mean, they'll give you long-winded sermons on virtue and courage, but they won't say a damn word when it actually matters. They won't, man. They preach about, eternal truth, but they cower in the face of temporal pressure. They'll post Bible verses on Facebook till their fingers fall off, but they go dead silent when their freedoms are being eroded in real time. And they might not like the way the world is, what they see around them, but their solution is always passivity. Just gather and pray and wait for God to work some miracle on their behalf. That's, as if desperate prayers will eventually pressure the creator of the universe into fixing what they're too afraid to face on their own. I mean, they'll preach against culture, They'll say it's antithetical to their values, but they're not changing anything. Nothing material, nothing structurally. Just more sermons, more songs, more sentiment. That's it. Just throwing that out into the ether. So yeah, I mean, and then when people say, you know what, Christianity is growing, more people are becoming Christians. I mean, my question's always growing into what? Seriously, I mean, because if Christianity is just getting more popular, that's not automatically good news. That's like saying your high school just added 200 more hall monitors. Sure, there's more of them, but they're not protecting anyone. They're just being annoying and enforcing compliance in a system that keeps failing. But there's a darker side to this. This is where it gets darker. So a lot of these people are order followers. A lot of them. They don't question authority, they execute it. And no evil person in history has ever succeeded without an army of people like that. People who enforce the rules, people who carry out the will of tyrants. History isn't built on monsters, it's built on the obedient. It's built by the obedient on the backs of everyone else. And there are plenty of Christians today who are playing that role. They bring forth the will of the state while convincing themselves and everyone else that it's the will of God. They act as the moral enforcers of the system that strips people of autonomy and freedom and thought, and they call it righteous. Because here's the kicker, Christianity isn't against the system. It's part of the system. It doesn't challenge the machine, it reinforces it. Sharpens its teeth even. I mean, dude, tyranny can sleep soundly tonight if these people are behind the will of change. Because they're not a threat to the system. They are the system. They're its moral cover. They just keep people pacified while pretending it's righteous. That's a huge part of why I left. One of the main reasons why I left. If there's one reason why I left, religion, Christianity, that's the reason. And if you bring any of this up, you're the problem. I'm a problem. You're being divisive. You're being prideful. You're the one who's falling away. Because when you stop parroting their script, you expose how much of it's performance. It's just performative. And the outrage isn't over your rejection, it's over your disobedience. Christianity today is a fractured machine. Like I said, thousands of denominations, each with its own gospel or version of the gospel, each convinced that the other is wrong. They say that truth sets you free, but they can't even agree on what the truth even is. And that's the part no one wants to face or just sweep under the rug or make an excuse for. Because once you step outside the groupthink, you start asking questions they don't want to answer. And the minute you stop pretending, you become the mirror they can't stand to look into. So no, I'm not here to debate theology. I'm not here to be converted. I've already been there. I've already lived it. And I've seen way too much to buy the marketing. I am just here to ask the simple question. If what you believe is true, why does it collapse the moment someone stops playing along? Think about that.